Hey y'all, thanks for joining me. I have an update for you on the Lavra Caves. A lot of information on this. I'm going to give you the history behind what's been going on this, as well as the prophecies and where I believe we are now and what's to come. So let me start with the latest story for you. This was out May 13, 2026. Ukraine forces Orthodox Church from another Kiev Caves Lavra church. So the canonical Ukrainian Orthodox Church has been forced from yet another church at the Kiev Caves Lavra as reserve workers cut locks and seized the Conception of St. Anne Church at the Far Caves Lavra. Yesterday. Around 11:30 a.m., workers from the state-run Kiev Caves Lavra Preserve broke into the church, according to Archpriest Nikita Chekman, a lawyer for the Lavra. Quote, "These actions cause serious concern, since they're being carried out despite the fact that court proceedings between the monastery and the preserve regarding the use of the Lavra's buildings and premises are currently ongoing, and final court decisions and the relevant disputes have not been made," he said. Father Nikita noted the absence of any prior warnings or official notifications from the preserve. Taking advantage of empty premises, they break the locks, seize the church, and effectively bar the monastery from access to the holy site. Only afterward do they send letters to the monastery claiming that the monks voluntarily removed their belongings. This is really disgraceful, but just another disgraceful move, really. I'm going to give you some information. These preserves, as they said here, that's about the Ministry of Culture. A while back in the fall, I showed you how they were desecrating the relics, trying to make them out to be some kind of museum pieces instead of the relics of the saints, holy things of God. So we're going to go through and I'm going to remind you about that happened. Okay. So in January 2023, that Ministry of Culture that I mentioned to you refused to renew the leases for the UOC's Dormition Cathedral and Refectory Church. They immediately handed them to the OCU for high-profile services. That was in January 2023. Then in early 2026, January, if I remember correctly, the remaining canonical monks were barred from using the primary active liturgy temples in the Lower Lavra. Okay, the Lower Lavra. That's important to know. The Lower Lavra, specifically the Church of the Exaltation of the Cross, and the Warm Church. Okay. Then, in February 24th of this year, 2026, the National Reserve took total physical control of the near caves at St. Anthony's network, housing 79 saintly relics, reopening it as a state-regulated museum and charging entry fees. The Far Caves are what we're talking about here in May 13, 2026. The lock cutting at the Conception of St. Anne's Church that I just talked to you about. So we have, as you can see, going back to 2023, they started then with their not allowing them to release not allowing the Ukrainian Orthodox Church to release their properties. Took that away, gave it to the schismatics. Then they barred the monks. Actually, here it shows February 18th. So, February 17th. Yeah, they locked, and this was the Lower Lavra that I talked about. Locked out the monks. Okay. And then, like I said, the takeover of the near Caves Lavra, February 24th. And then now this one. So, there's a real concern here, and that has to do with the fact that the UOC has no access to the church, to the Lavra. Churches, the buildings there's 100 at least. They've been blocked from all of these places where they usually have service. Even when Metropolitan Onuphry is doing his services, prayer services, it's done outside of this Kiev Caves Lavra because they're not allowed in now. And it's very important to know that the monks no longer can do their liturgies there, their services, which is a huge problem, which I'll get into in a minute. I want to remind you about the prophecies on what happens with all this that I've just mentioned to you. So this is what St. Lawrence of Chernigov said. Okay, I think he reposed in 1950. He said, when a little freedom appears, when the churches and monasteries are being opened and restored, then all false teachings will come out, and the demons and secret atheists, and he names Catholics, Uniates, Ukrainian, self-ordained, and others, that would be the schismatics, and will fiercely take up arms against the Orthodox Russian Church. Its unity and its conciliar nature. A godless authority will support these heretics, as you can see, and therefore they will take churches away from the Orthodox and slaughter the faithful. Then the Metropolitan of Kiev, not worthy of the name, I'm guessing they're talking about Epiphany. He's talking probably about Epiphany, together with his like-minded hierarchs and priests, will strongly shake the Russian Church. The whole world will be amazed at his lawlessness and will be frightened. He himself will go off into eternal perdition like Judas. Wow. But all these slanders of the evil one and false teachings will disappear in Russia, and there will be one Orthodox Russian Church. That's what he said. Now, another thing is what Elder Jonah had said. He reposed in 2012. Now, he had said it was 3 Paschas. After 3 Paschas, then the church would come together again, reunite with the Russian Orthodox Church. That's what he said. And then I'm going to remind you what the monks said. Igor Strelkov, previously Minister of Defense of the Donetsk People's Republic, also claimed in late 2022 that in 2014, while he was minister, monks from this particular monastery approached him bearing this prophecy. Half a year after the heretics take over the Kiev Pechersk Lavra in the caves, Russia will reunite with Ukraine as it was before, and Kiev will be liberated not just from heretics but also from outside forces. And I've talked about this before. Now this could be obviously roughly 6 months, and also there's the case of whether repentance is happening, prayers, things can be tribulations can go on longer if there isn't prayers of repentance and mercy, but then it can also be pushed back or less severe and for less time. So this is what it says. When they take over the Kiev Caves Lavra and the caves. Well, this has happened. It's done every section of the Lavra has now is in the hands of the schismatics or heretics, whatever you want to call them. Because you have, like I said, Lower Lavra, the far caves, the near caves, near caves, I think it's called. Far caves, near caves, yeah. So you have the far caves, the near caves, the lower Lavra. So all of the areas that you can think of in that compound of buildings, holy sites, are now in the hands of the OCU. And was given to them by the secular, corrupt government under Zelensky. It's very important to talk about cutting off the divine liturgy in the lower Lavra area where the monks were doing their services, when the priests or the Metropolitan Onuphry were doing services there, and they're not now. Now you have pretend, not real clergy doing supposed services. The point is the canonical divine liturgy is not happening in the Lavra caves, that compound, any longer. And that is, there's a belief on that. Okay, so without canonical priests offering the bloodless sacrifice over the tombs of the Holy Fathers, the spiritual defense system, that's again, this is another type of restrainer. Okay, so the prayers going on, the liturgies going on all the time is a type of restrainer of the evil one, of things going bad. Okay, so they were holding back cosmic unworldly chaos. Okay, and of the evil one, the works of the evil one, through their prayers in the holy sites with the holy relics. And of course, the worldly leaders don't see it that way. They think they're, it's just it's just a ministry of culture. It's just a museum. It's just, we could just give it to these because this is the church that we back. Okay, the OCU. But spiritually, what they've done is unsealed a boundary line, a spiritual shield. Okay. Now, the war will end quickly because the physical buffer is gone, paving the way for rapid military or divine shifts. Now, as you know, what happens afterwards, and I will bring that up for you in just a second here. There's one other thing I wanted to bring up. This is what Elder Jonah also said that I think was important because I didn't realize this when I was first reading this a while back, several months ago, last year. He said this originally. Again, he reposed in 2012. He is the Ukrainian Paisios and Porphyrios. This is what he said. People from outside will confuse us and make us fight each other. We will fight against our Russian brothers. Oh, what a war will that be? So, yeah, I read this wrong before. I thought, he's saying it's short. No, he's saying, it's quite a war. He didn't say how long it was going to be. In this quote here, he said, just in a matter of days, the Russian army will get to Kiev. Meaning it won't take Russia long for their troops to march into Kiev. And there will be such a joy for the Ukrainians who will impatiently wait for the Russian army, which it's kind of hard to believe that, but, after everything. But that's what he said, because in this way, all the political and church issues of Ukraine will be resolved. So, an important piece there. I'm going to give you what Metropolitan Onuphry said. He stressed that the trial, now lasting more than 4 years, has become an immense calamity, not only for the Ukrainian people, but for all human civilization. According to him, the deaths of innocent civilians and the loss of soldiers in battle directly or indirectly affect other states as well. His beatitude is convinced that the unfolding grief touches the spiritual foundations of being, since, quote, the sin of war affects the spiritual state of all people on earth. Yes, because anything that one does, good or bad, holy or evil, reverberates through the cosmos, through the universe, through the world, kind of like the chaos theory with the butterfly that flutters its wings. He says of the UOC, he said he reminded his flock that the present period is a time of great trials for every believer. Yet he emphasized that Christians must not fall into despair because, quote, the Lord does not send trials beyond our strength. The risen Lord abides with us, as he himself said, I am with you always, even unto the end of the age. Metropolitan Onuphry called on the faithful to intensify their spiritual labors and not abandon prayer for peace. He especially emphasized the need for prayerfully commemorate the soldiers and the people suffering in areas of active hostilities. So when we look at what they said, if we take all of that together of what the prophecy said, it looks like we're at this point now that it's been taken over. It's at that point where it's not one section, it's all. So they've taken over. The OCU has been given, as we said, the Lavra Caves. And if you go by 6 months, roughly, that would be mid-November. Well, it could be. But things, as I said, can change. Prayers of repentance and mercy, God's mercy, asking for God's mercy and to lessen what's to come, and to pray constantly, Lord have mercy, that things can be altered. It's interesting because, God changes timelines based on human actions. Because you could use the example from the Bible, the fast of Nineveh, Jonah and all that. As Metropolitan Onuphry said, intensify our prayer life. If the global faithful cry out for mercy, the Lord can dramatically shorten these days of tribulation. I thought that's a possibility because he doesn't want, people to suffer too much if they are repenting, right? So I hope you were able to get something out of this, that things have come to a head. Another spiritual shield is down. So like the curtain of mercy regarding those two prophecies that are the external and internal strength of Greece. As we talked about the E65 road, I talked to you about that last week, and the 12 nautical miles. By the end of June, as I said, the protection of the veil of protection is going to be lifted for that, and it's also the shield, the spiritual shield for this as well has been lifted. And according to some prophecies, that things move rapidly after that, those events, those prophecies are fulfilled and the protection veil is gone, the events towards conflict and war, even more so, are much more rapid according to what I've been reading. So I hope that made sense. Like I said, it's important to understand these things as best as we can, because we want to make sure we're praying, as best we can on all these issues for the world, for all of us. And may He have mercy on all of us. Thanks so much for watching, for following my channel. If you haven't subscribed, please consider subscribing. Like my channel if you think it's worth liking. Share my videos if you think they're worth sharing. Press that notification button, that bell, if you want to be notified when my videos come out. If you want to become a member, you can do that by clicking the join button below this video. And if you'd like to just randomly help me out, you can buy me a cup of coffee. The link is in the description. And I'm grateful to all of you. Thank you so much for all of your support, in whatever way it is. I really, truly appreciate it, and I'm grateful to you all. I hope you have a blessed evening.